When people talk about attraction, they often focus on physical appearance, chemistry, or sexual energy, and while those things matter, they only scratch the surface. What creates lasting desire, what makes a man feel truly connected to a woman in a way that goes beyond lust, is emotional safety. It's the one thing men are often unaware they're even craving, but once they feel it, they can't get enough. Emotional safety is a space where a man doesn't feel like he has to perform, impress, or prove himself. It's where he feels accepted, respected, and seen for who he actually is, not just who he thinks he needs to be. This isn't about being passive, agreeable, or overly nurturing. Emotional safety doesn't mean becoming his emotional dumping ground or fixing his problems. It means becoming a woman who knows how to hold space, someone who doesn't flinch when he shares his fears, who doesn't shame him when he stumbles, who doesn't weaponize his vulnerability when things get hard. When a man feels like he can show up emotionally flawed, real, imperfect, and still be met with understanding and presence, he begins to form a bond that goes deeper than sex ever could. That's when you stop being a temporary thrill and start becoming essential to his sense of peace. The truth is, many men are walking around emotionally armored. They've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability equals weakness. They've been laughed at, shut down, told to man up, or get over it, too many times to count. And so, when a woman enters his life who isn't intimidated by his emotional truth, who invites it gently and without judgment, it can feel like water in a desert. He starts to breathe more easily. He starts to let his guard down. He starts to look at you not just with desire, but with gratitude and awe. This emotional safety doesn't mean letting him get away with anything or losing yourself in the process. In fact, it's the opposite. True safety comes from consistency, from self-respect, from emotional maturity. It means you don't react impulsively to every trigger. You don't guilt trip or play mind games. You respond instead of retaliate. You communicate honestly instead of manipulating outcomes. This kind of woman doesn't just make a man feel good, she makes him feel safe enough to be real. When a man is with a woman who makes him feel emotionally safe, everything about his energy begins to shift. He listens more, he shares more, he prioritizes her more. Not because she's chasing him or demanding more, but because she's meeting him in a place that almost no one else can. She's not just giving him attention, she's offering him an emotional home, a space to land when the world gets too loud, too demanding, too shallow. And ironically, it's this emotional safety that makes the sexual connection more powerful too. Because when a man feels safe, he's not performing, he's connecting. He's not distracted by insecurity or ego. He's present, and presence is the foundation of deep intimacy. A man might chase 1,000 women for the thrill of validation, but the one woman who makes him feel emotionally safe is the one he returns to. She becomes the exception, the standard, the person who makes all the noise of the world quiet down for a moment. But here's the nuance: emotional safety doesn't come from trying to be what a man wants. It comes from being yourself fully and freely. It comes from doing your own inner work, regulating your own emotions, healing your own wounds so that when someone else opens up, you don't feel the need to fix them, you just hold space for them to be. That's a rare kind of strength, and it's what turns attraction into devotion. Men will not always be able to articulate this desire. They might say they want a woman who's sexy, fun, confident, and they do. But what keeps them coming back, what makes them fall, is the feeling that with you, they don't have to pretend, that they can exhale, that you're not looking to break them down or control them, but to truly understand them. And when a man finds that when he finds a woman who makes him feel emotionally safe, he will guard and protect that bond more fiercely than anything else, because now it's not just about what you give him. It's about how you make him feel about himself when he's around you. So if you want to tap into the hidden power that men desire more than sex, start here. Don't perform, don't overgive, don't chase. Create a space of trust, of calm, of depth. Be the kind of woman who is solid in herself and soft enough to receive him when he's ready to be seen. That, more than anything, is what makes you unforgettable. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who doesn't lay all her cards on the table, not because she's playing games, but because she lives with a deep sense of self-possession. She doesn't rush to explain herself. She doesn't seek validation through oversharing. She isn't afraid of silence or space. Instead, she moves through the world like she knows exactly who she is, and that energy alone pulls people in. Mystery is not about being aloof or emotionally unavailable. It's not about hiding parts of yourself or withholding affection out of fear. Mystery is the natural byproduct of being rooted in your own world, your passions, your boundaries, your values, your joy. When a woman is deeply connected to herself, she becomes unpredictable in the most alluring way, not erratic, but alive. She doesn't follow a script. She doesn't adjust herself to fit someone else's preferences. And that self-containment, that unshakable identity keeps a man intrigued long after the first impression. Too often, women are taught that in order to keep a man interested, they need to constantly entertain, constantly be available, constantly prove their worth. But in truth, it's the woman who doesn't need to be needed who becomes the most irresistible. When you know your value, you don't feel the urge to explain it. When you trust yourself, you don't overcompensate to be liked. And when a man sees that when he senses that you're not anxiously waiting for his approval, he starts to chase your essence, not just your attention. The power of mystery lies in the unknown, in the spaces where he gets to discover you, layer by layer, moment by moment. When you give everything away too quickly, your thoughts, your availability, your body, your time, you remove the process of earning you. And while love isn't a transaction, human nature craves challenge. A man doesn't want a woman he can fully figure out after 2 conversations. He wants to explore her, to be surprised by her, to slowly uncover the richness of her mind, the depth of her feelings, the unique rhythm of her life. But none of this works if it comes from insecurity. A woman who uses silence or distance to manipulate loses her power, because mystery is never about control. It's about wholeness. It's about being so immersed in your own life that a man realizes being part of it would be a privilege, not a right. It's about knowing that your peace is not up for negotiation, and your time is something you give, not something people are entitled to. When a woman lives in this energy, her presence lingers. A man walks away from a conversation with her and thinks, who is she really? Not because she's hiding, but because she's layered, she's textured. She's not trying to make herself digestible. She's just being, fully, and that alone is a rare and stunning thing. Self-possession also changes how you respond to attention. You no longer light up just because someone shows interest. You pause, you evaluate, you ask yourself, do I even want this energy in my space? And when you respond that way, with calm discernment, you send a clear message, I am the prize, I am not waiting to be chosen. I am choosing, and men feel that. They feel the subtle shift in dynamic, the energy of a woman who knows she's whole, regardless of who walks in or out of her life. This kind of woman doesn't need to talk about her worth, she embodies it. She doesn't over-explain her boundaries, she holds them with grace and confidence. She doesn't beg for clarity, she creates it through her standards, and the more grounded she is in herself, the more naturally she stirs curiosity. She doesn't have to make a man want more, he simply does because she offers something beyond surface beauty or easy access. She offers an experience, a presence, a mystery that unfolds rather than explodes. And perhaps the most beautiful part, a man who truly values depth, who is emotionally available and ready for connection, will thrive in this kind of energy. He won't be threatened by it, he'll respect it. Because he doesn't want someone to lose herself in him, he wants to meet someone who's already found herself. So if you want to embody the kind of power men crave more than sex, start here. Reclaim your mystery by reconnecting with yourself. Guard your time, nurture your passions, be unavailable to anything that doesn't align with your peace, and remember your presence is not meant to be explained, it's meant to be experienced. There is something unmistakably powerful about a woman who knows what she stands for. A woman with standards doesn't need to raise her voice or demand attention. Her energy says everything. She's not looking for someone to complete her, fix her, or give her life meaning. She's already done that work. So when someone enters her world, it's not a matter of how much she can give, it's a matter of whether they align with the values she's already living by. Standards are not about being picky or difficult. They're not about setting up walls to keep people out. They're boundaries rooted in self-respect. They're a reflection of what a woman believes she deserves, not because someone told her she's worth it, but because she knows it in her bones. And when a woman moves from that kind of clarity, everything about her becomes magnetic. She doesn't waste time on people who play games. She doesn't shrink herself to be more palatable. She doesn't stay in places where her peace is disturbed. That quiet certainty becomes the very thing that commands respect, especially from men. A man may not always be able to explain it, but he feels it instantly. He feels when a woman is leading from self-worth rather than insecurity. He senses when her no is not a test but a boundary. He notices when she walks away not to manipulate, but because her values won't let her settle. That kind of woman doesn't chase, she chooses, and that shift alone can change the entire dynamic. What makes standards so attractive is that they require a man to rise, not perform, not pretend, but rise into his own integrity. When a woman has standards, she invites a man into a higher version of himself. She becomes a mirror, not one that reflects who he pretends to be, but one that shows him who he could be. That doesn't mean she takes on the role of a teacher or a fixer. It means she holds steady in her truth and lets the people around her either meet her there or walk away. And the truth is, some will walk away. Some men will find your standards too much. They'll label you as too intense or too difficult. But the ones who are meant for you will see your standards as a gift. They'll see the structure and clarity you bring as rare and refreshing, because deep down, even if many men don't say it out loud, they crave a woman who challenges them to grow, not through pressure, but through presence. Through how she lives, through what she accepts, and more importantly, what she doesn't. Your standards protect your energy. They filter out the noise. They save you from the emotional exhaustion of trying to earn someone's love. You no longer fall into the trap of overgiving, over-explaining, or over-functioning in relationships, because when you know what you want, you stop settling for almosts, you stop falling for potential. You stop investing in people who only show up halfway. That confidence, that quiet refusal to lower your bar, speaks louder than any romantic gesture ever could. It's not about being harsh, it's about being clear. Clear on what love means to you. Clear on how you deserve to be spoken to, clear on how effort should look, clear on how apologies are backed by changed behavior. When a man steps into that space, he either rises with you or removes himself. And either way, you win because you're no longer wasting time trying to turn crumbs into a feast. Women often fear that having standards will scare men away, but the reality is, the right kind of man isn't looking for someone who's easy to impress, he's looking for someone who's hard to forget. And a woman who stands firm in her worth, who doesn't allow access to just anyone, is unforgettable, not because she's trying to be, but because she lives by design, not by default. She's not moved by attention, she's moved by intention. The most powerful thing you can do in love is not to convince someone of your value. It's to live in a way that shows you're clear on it, even if it means walking alone for a while, because the woman who honors herself will never be truly alone. Her energy will attract the kind of love that aligns, not the kind that drains. So if you want to access the kind of power that makes a man respect you, crave your presence, and cherish your trust, raise your standards. Not to punish, not to test, but to protect your peace, because your standards are not walls, they're doors, and only the ones who are meant to stay will be willing to walk through them with intention. There's a powerful shift that happens when a woman chooses depth over drama. In a world that glorifies attention, emotional highs, and validation on demand, it takes strength to step outside that noise and choose substance. Drama is loud, addictive, and fleeting. Depth is quiet, steady, and unforgettable. A woman who lives from depth doesn't chase the thrill of temporary emotion, she seeks real connection. And when a man meets a woman like that, everything changes. She becomes the one who stands out, not because she shouts the loudest, but because she's rooted in something real. Drama is easy. It's reactive. It's all about emotional manipulation, showing too much, too fast, too often in the hope of staying relevant in someone's mind. It thrives on insecurity, unpredictability, and performance. But depth is built. It takes courage. It requires honesty, vulnerability, patience, and a sense of emotional maturity that's rare. A woman who embodies depth knows who she is. She feels deeply, but she doesn't let her feelings run wild. She doesn't manufacture chaos just to feel close to someone. She knows that real intimacy isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. When a man meets a woman who isn't addicted to drama, it disorients him in the best way. He doesn't have to guess where he stands. He doesn't have to decode her mood swings or wonder if she's playing games. He meets someone who brings peace, not confusion. And in a culture where people confuse excitement with emotional volatility, a woman who shows up with calm, presence, and emotional clarity becomes magnetic, not in a flashy way, in a way that lasts. A deep woman doesn't avoid hard conversations. She leans into them, but she doesn't use her words as weapons. She communicates with intent, not impulse. She doesn't erupt to feel powerful. She pauses to stay powerful. She's not afraid of conflict, but she's not addicted to it either. She knows that love isn't about always being right, it's about being understood. She can cry without guilt, express needs without shame, and hold space for others without losing herself. That kind of emotional intelligence is rare, and it's what separates a momentary attraction from long-term devotion. Depth also means discernment. It means not giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. It means understanding that just because someone wants your energy doesn't mean they deserve it. A deep woman doesn't throw her feelings at someone hoping to be seen. She protects her heart until it's safe to open it fully. She's not cold, she's intentional. She doesn't need constant reassurance because her confidence doesn't come from external approval, it comes from knowing herself. And that's the kind of presence men remember. Not the woman who screamed the loudest when she was hurt, but the one who handled herself with grace, even when she had every reason not to. The one who didn't weaponize silence, but also didn't beg for attention. The one who didn't fall apart. When rejected, she simply walked away with her dignity intact. That's power. That's depth. That's the kind of energy that lingers. A woman rooted in depth isn't reactive, she's reflective. She learns from her patterns. She sees how her wounds show up and works through them instead of projecting them. She doesn't need to stir up drama to feel alive. Her aliveness comes from living with intention, passion, and clarity. That makes her irresistible to men who are tired of shallow connections, and even the ones who aren't ready for her will remember her, because once you've been seen by a woman with emotional depth, surface-level attention will never feel the same again. Drama fades, it burns fast and leaves ashes. Depth endures. It builds slowly, but it builds something real. And in relationships, what people long for often without knowing how to say it is someone who gets them, not someone who overwhelms them. Someone who offers presence, not pressure. Someone who can hold emotional space, not emotional chaos. That's what makes a woman unforgettable. That's what men crave more than they even realize. So if you want to be desired not just for how you look, but for who you are, choose depth over drama. Be willing to walk away from noise and toward peace. Stop performing and start being. Stop reacting and start reflecting. Because a woman who leads from depth doesn't just get attention, she earns loyalty. She doesn't have to beg for commitment, she inspires it, not through force, but through the quiet, undeniable power of being fully, beautifully herself. There's a quiet kind of strength in a woman who understands timing. A woman who knows when to lean in with presence, support, affection, and just as powerfully when to step back, create space, and let things unfold without force. That balance is rare. It's the opposite of desperation. It's not about chasing or retreating, it's about reading the energy, trusting herself, and moving in alignment with what's real, not what's feared. This kind of emotional awareness doesn't come from impulse. It comes from experience, wisdom, and self-respect. When a woman knows when to lean in, she does it from a place of giving, not grasping. Her affection isn't a currency to buy attention. Her care isn't a strategy to manipulate closeness. She leans in because she's attuned to him, to herself, to the moment. Maybe he's struggling, doubting, or unsure, and she senses he doesn't need distance. He needs reassurance, so she shows up. She doesn't overwhelm. She offers calm, a simple check-in, a kind word, a presence that says, "You don't have to do this alone." But the same woman who leans in with grace also knows when to pull her energy back, not as a punishment, not as a tactic, but as a boundary. If the energy becomes one-sided, she notices. If his actions start to contradict his words, she pays attention. If her presence is taken for granted, she doesn't beg to be seen, she steps back, not out of ego, but because she understands the difference between effort and overfunctioning, between loving and overextending, between patience and self-abandonment. When she steps back, it's not a loud exit, it's not a threat, it's not a dramatic silence, it's a shift. It's her way of saying, "I'm still here, but I won't carry this alone." That shift can be a wake-up call, not because she's playing games, but because she's breaking a cycle. A woman who knows when to step back doesn't chase validation. She observes patterns. She honors her needs. And in doing so, she gives a man the space to meet her halfway or not at all. Either way, she gets her clarity. This ability to hold love and self-respect in the same hand is what sets her apart. A woman who can do both is not easily forgotten because she's not emotionally needy. She's emotionally mature. She understands that connection isn't built through constant presence, but through mutual effort, honesty, and intention. When she leans in, it's felt. When she steps back, it's noticed. And through both, she teaches others how to treat her without ever raising her voice. A lot of women fear stepping back because they think it means losing the connection. But what they don't realize is this: when you always lean in, when you always fill the silence, always send the message, always make the plan, you never get to see who's really choosing you. You don't allow space for the other person to move toward you. But when you take that brave breath and pause, when you resist the urge to fix, to chase, to prove, you invite truth in. You invite reciprocity. You give the relationship room to breathe. And yes, stepping back may reveal hard truths. It may show you that he's not ready, not intentional, not capable of giving what you need. But that truth is a gift, because a woman who knows her worth doesn't want to be chosen out of comfort or convenience. She wants to be chosen clearly, and that clarity only comes when she stops overcompensating. This dance of leaning in and stepping back is not about strategy, it's about alignment. It's about giving from fullness, not emptiness. It's about responding to what's real, not reacting to what's feared. A woman who moves like this doesn't just attract attention, she earns admiration, because her love is warm but not desperate. Her care is generous but not endless. Her heart is open but not unguarded. When a man meets a woman who embodies this kind of balance, he feels it in his bones. He doesn't feel pushed, he feels pulled, not by pressure, but by presence. Not by performance, but by depth. He starts to realize that her love is not something to take lightly, it's something to rise for. And if he's emotionally available and ready, he does. If he's not, she doesn't collapse, she lets him go. So if you want to stand in your quiet feminine power, start here. Learn the rhythm. Trust your intuition. Let yourself lean in when it's safe and real, and don't be afraid to step back when it's not. That balance doesn't make you less desirable. It makes you unforgettable. There's a difference between a woman who knows her worth and one who is constantly trying to prove it. The former moves through the world with quiet confidence, while the latter moves with exhaustion, always hoping someone will finally see what she brings to the table. A woman who lives her value doesn't chase attention, affection, or approval. She embodies it. She doesn't need to explain why she's worthy. Her actions, energy, and presence do that for her, and that's exactly what makes her unforgettable. When you're around her, there's no performance. She's not trying to be more likable, more available, or more agreeable just to be chosen. She's not bending over backwards trying to become the perfect partner. She's focused on becoming the most authentic version of herself, and that authenticity is her magnetism. She's not in a relationship to be validated. She's in it to share, not to prove. And when a man meets a woman like that, something shifts in him. He feels the difference between a woman who needs him to complete her and one who simply chooses him because she wants to. Trying to prove your value often looks like overgiving. It looks like ignoring red flags, tolerating inconsistency, and trying to fix or heal someone who hasn't done the work. It looks like suppressing your needs in hopes of keeping someone around. But a woman who lives her value doesn't do any of that. She's kind, but she has limits. She's open, but not desperate. She gives, but only where there is mutual respect and emotional safety. Her value isn't something she negotiates, it's something she honors. This woman has done the inner work. She's faced her insecurities, healed old wounds, and taken responsibility for her emotional well-being. She's not waiting for a relationship to save her. She's not using love as a bandage for self-doubt. Because she already feels whole within herself, she's able to connect from a place of strength rather than lack. She knows that someone choosing her doesn't define her, it aligns with her. That alignment is powerful. It's not about needing someone to want her. It's about recognizing who genuinely sees her and reciprocates with consistency, effort, and emotional depth. Men notice this. Even if they can't fully articulate it, they feel it. A woman who lives her value doesn't make it easy to walk all over her. She's warm, but she's not always available. She's nurturing, but she's not your emotional dumping ground. She listens deeply, but she also speaks up when something doesn't feel right. She doesn't tolerate disrespect under the disguise of love. She doesn't romanticize someone's potential. She stays rooted in what's real. That clarity is attractive. That groundedness is rare. What makes her so powerful is that she doesn't play games. She's not afraid of silence, of space, of walking away when something isn't aligned. She doesn't stay just because of history or chemistry. She stays when there is emotional maturity, communication, and mutual respect. And if those things are missing, she knows she can walk away without losing herself. She doesn't beg, chase, or convince. She lets go with grace, and her grace is what makes her memorable. You'll never find her trying to prove her value through comparison or competition. She's not worried about being better than anyone else. She's focused on being aligned with herself. That internal stability creates external peace. She doesn't have to control situations to feel secure because her security comes from within. That's a woman who moves differently. She doesn't need constant reminders that she's enough. She walks like she knows it. She shows up like someone who belongs in every room she enters. That energy doesn't just attract, it commands respect. Living your value means knowing when to engage and when to walk away. It means holding space for love without losing yourself in it. It means being soft without becoming small, and strong without becoming guarded. It's a balance that only comes when you stop looking for others to tell you you're worthy and start living like you already are. This is the kind of woman that men admire, desire, and respect. She's not defined by what she gives to others, but by what she's built within herself. And the truth is, many men won't be ready for her, but that doesn't shake her, because she's not here to be half loved. She's here to be deeply seen, fully valued, and genuinely chosen. And until that shows up, she stays true to herself because she knows she's the prize.